How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So, as I mentioned in some of my past videos, I had put in a lot of my bulk buying and big buying on hold for a while, recouping the funds, as well as really setting my eyes on what I wanted some of my next bigger key of books to be. And one of the things that I had been slacking on that end of last year, early this year, I'd really been trying to double down on, and that's why I wanted to really refocus my efforts, was with my Batman keys. So, as you guys know, I not too long ago was able to procure the first Poison Ivy, the first Batgirl. But there was a particular era that I was looking to next, and that is a lot of the Neal Adams first appearances. So I had also decided that I want to put any Silver Age first appearances on hold for now and focus on true first appearances, because anybody in the hobby knows most of Batman's, for a lot of his bigger ones, first came out in the Golden Age. So you have a lot of awesome Silver Age first appearances with beautiful covers. And while I would like to add those later on down the line, right now I just want true first appearances, and sadly that Neal Adams era was an era that I was very much lacking on. So all of that has changed now. I took a break from buying, I let the funds build up, I found the copies I wanted, which was very important. Early on in the hobby, I very much kind of was a little trigger happy with a lot of my purchasing, just wanting to own a book, being less picky about the condition, the copy that I wanted for my collection. And that's very important for you to figure out what you want. If you are less picky about it, that is fantastic, because you're going to have a lot more of the books you want easier and sooner than what I have chosen to do for myself. So I have two Neal Adams classics that I was able to pick up, both first appearances, keeping it in the family, both with the pretty high impressive grade, not the highest, but right where I want it to be, with a couple other qualifications I was looking for. So just so I make sure we don't get any glare from anything in this room, we're just going to go ahead and pan right into a little close-up of both of these books for the big reveal. And those books are going to be pretty awesome. We have this beautiful Batman number 232, the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. It is also the origin of Batman and Robin retold, as well as a Talia cameo. So 9.0 white pages. If you guys have seen any of my past videos, have mentioned to myself, I chose to set myself a goal, at least for the Neal Adams era of Batman books that I was looking to get graded. I wanted them in at least a 9.0, and then I did the crazier task of deciding I wanted to do white pages. When I can. So far, I've been able to pull it off, but that white pages is really killing me in some scenarios, because very much get a premium on these books that I'm very much battling that collector problem on the OCD on, do I really want to stick to these guidelines I'm set for myself, or would I just rather own the book? But I decided I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to hold down to the copy I want in my collection. So here we have this beautiful 9.0, like I said, white pages, Neal Adams, Ra's al Ghul first appearance. And the other thing that I'm having a hard time finding, and I'm being pickier about, as I keep mentioning over and over in my videos, is the spine wrap. I'm trying to get as perfect a spine wrap as I can. I don't mind a little bit of white coming through, but not so much that it takes away from the cover, or an uneven spine wrap where it starts out super wide and goes super narrow, so it's at least consistent and very minor if not perfect. But this copy has beautiful coloring, and this is a book that I honestly had put off getting for the longest time, because even though it's not ridiculously rare, it is tougher to get in high grade. But the cover compared to a lot of his other ones on this one didn't wow me as much, and I think it's because even though you have Ra's al Ghul on the cover, front and center, in his first appearance, like you want in a first appearance, the kind of washed out green and yellow he chose for it, it just didn't speak to me as much as some of his other work, so where I was never as eager to add this one to my collection as some of his other work that I'm just even more of a fan of. But I must say, getting it in hand, especially in this grade, and seeing how well the colors actually do once you have it in person, it looks 10 times better in person. like I said, and just right there, you can see the red and black Batman and Robin logo, how dark it is and how it pops off of that green yellow they chose for the main cover. This is an absolutely beautiful book. I apologize for ever thinking it was less than some of his other works. Seeing it in person with these colors, absolutely phenomenal. I was going to say, and just a gorgeous copy to boot right there. Extremely happy with this 9.0 in my collection. But as I mentioned, I grabbed 2 pickups for this big haul of 2 books, that is, and we kept it in the family. So if here we have the first Ra's al Ghul, the other book I have up to share with you guys is Detective Comics 411, the first appearance of Talia al Ghul, also in the matching 9.0 white pages. And the ridiculous thing about that is I got these books for roughly the same price. So I want to say my first appearance of Ra's al Ghul we have right here in the 9.0 white pages. After a best offer sent out, including shipping, I want to say that guy was about $1,000 flat. This book is one that was listed up on eBay by My Comic Shop, and I'm very familiar with My Comic Shop in that if you see any books listed from them on eBay, if you go over to their website, it is always listed, usually by at least $200 to $300, depending on what the book is, cheaper on their website. So I forget what they had this listed for on eBay, but I popped over to their website. Sure enough, it was listed cheaper than that. I also did a best offer on their website. The seller came back with a counter, and I accepted the counter offer. So this book, I want to say after shipping included, I got for about $925, I believe is where it ended up settling. So right around the same price for the same grade as the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. I knocked both of these out in the same week. So obviously not very cheap. You can see why it really needed saving up for. So this one, it has almost a perfect spine wrap. It does get a sliver bigger at the bottom with that white wrap than it does up top, but overall still an absolutely phenomenal cover of the first appearance of Talia al Ghul, who you have right here. And again, we'll get another close-up of the spine. Again, that nice black cover. These books, and this one, is very much akin to why I love Neal Adams with 2 other books. A couple examples I'll show for you guys right now. Alright, so the other one I want to show off that kind of fits in with the theme anyway is this also beautiful Neal Adams, also a 9.2 white pages, first appearance of the League of Assassins I've had for a hot minute. But you can see right here, in both situations, you have Batman. Let's slide that over a little bit. You have Batman kind of hiding up out of sight, trying not to be discovered. So it's both that vantage play that there is either some looming threat either behind him or below him. Either way, it's like the threat knows he's there, it's seeking him out. He's always up at this awesome angular vantage point, just barely out of sight. It adds to tension on the cover itself. So the first Talia right here, where you have, I forget his name, I want to say Abu, but maybe I'm just thinking of Aladdin right now. Anybody let me know. It's stuck on the tip of my tongue from the animated series, but right behind him, as he's looking at Talia right now, tied up below, here you have the League of Assassins in this swamp hunting Batman. He's in this tree, moon glowing across his chest, just barely out of sight. It's almost the same exact thing in a different situation, and I love it. Another book that is very, very close to it is Batman 221, where once again, you have Batman up on this angular vantage point with this angry mob threat down below, some kind of light casting across Batman. So with all 3 of these, very, very similar to what you have going on, and something about it, the angle, I don't know what it is, the looming threat behind him below, I love every time he does it. So you have these 3 books that are very, very obviously, kind of one and the same. And then you have a couple others that are a little bit of a lesser extent. So also with Batman 235, where once again, Batman kind of is up in that same tree, out of sight in that swamp, being hunted by Talia and this henchman right here. So kind of throwing his cowl in the swamp as a distraction as he gets the kind of the upper hand from that tree. But it has that same perspective, hiding out of sight, looming threat, tension building play that Neal Adams is so great with in these covers. And to a lesser extent, I do want to kick in because it kind of ties into it slightly, is I would go so far to say Batman 222 is also along that lines. Very much not as hidden, but you still have, as they're supposed to be, hidden out of sight behind these tombstones as you have the Beatles walking out of the grave, out of the cemetery. So not as much as the others, but it does very much play into that, which is one of the other things why, on top of Neal Adams just being a fantastic artist, seeing all of his covers with this vantage play, with that awesome vantage play, playing with that danger that Batman is just barely out of sight, going to be discovered, it is very much what the Arkham games was able to build, and I love in it, that creepy tension and awesomeness of vantage. So again, Batman 222, that is a good example. Batman 235, another awesome example. One of my just favorite covers, key or not, that Neal Adams has done. This is just absolutely one of my favorites, again, with Batman 221. And then, of course, one of the other ones I've shown off before, the first League of Assassins Detective 405, that is very much heavy leaning into that. Along with, of course, the newbie to the show, the first Talia with Detective Comics issue 411. All right, everybody, so there we have it. The first appearance of Ra's al Ghul, the first appearance of Talia al Ghul, both in a 9.0, both with white pages, both with a spine wrap that I am very, very happy with. And like I said, and that is where it gets so easy as you watch a lot of comic YouTube channels to get caught up in seeing books like this and feeling like you have to just jump out and go out and get them. You don't. If you want these books in your collection, just for the sake that you love them and you already wanted them, it's part of your goal, go for it. But it also doesn't mean you have to get it right away. Pick the copies you want to have in your collection. Take your time. While you can always sell it off, trade it, upgrade it if you want, it's much better if you just kind of hold out for the copy you want. And again, living situation is a huge part of it. These books I can get for where I am in life right now. I looked around at some 9.2, 9.4. Even that, while I could have swung it, I didn't need it. These hit my 9.0 with white pages, and I didn't need to try to spend that much money that the extra 0.2 of a grade would have kicked it up to. So also, again, just because I have these books, if you guys weren't previously into Batman before, if you want to look into it, great. But just because you see me showing off some Batman Detective Comics, if you weren't previously interested, doesn't mean you have to be either. I love these books, but it does not mean that you have to love these books. So anytime you guys have a list that you want for your collection, and that's what I do, I make a list. Focus on your list first. If you find other interests, other passions that you happen upon, other books that you discover that you love, absolutely add them to that list. But I would very much stick to a list for you guys. It gets so easy to get distracted with seeing the shiny new toy of that book you just heard about or that book everybody's buying. So it's easy for you to want to go buy it. If you see out at comic shops or acclaim sales, a lot of great deals going on, and they might honestly, they are great deals. But if you didn't need that book or that many books before, maybe just kind of tone it back. I got into a heavy claim sale buying binge. I don't regret it. I have a lot of books I'm happy at because of that. But I do regret at times I did buy books I did not want just because I liked the excitement of buying them. You got deals the more you bought. And like I said, I built great relationships with both the sellers and with the people in the claim sales. So it's like I wanted to be there even more because of that. And I wanted to buy books because it was fun with everybody else. But I was doing it every week, sometimes twice a week, and I was shelling out $300 to $400, it looked like, every week or two. Which again is fine, I could afford it, but it took away from me actually saving up and focusing on getting books like this. So any of that is absolutely fine as long as it's part of your plan and you're not impulse buying or getting distracted. So make yourself a list. Think about what you really want, what kind of collection you want to have, what books matter to you. Focus on those. If you want to have some fun along the way, go for it. I might still binge every now and then. I still hit the claim sales randomly every now and then. But I'm not doing it every single week at the same volume I used to do every single week. So that's all I have for this video, I think. Got a little long-winded toward the end there, but 2 more awesome books towards my goal. So I now have, in at least a 9 or higher white pages, the first League of Assassins, the first Ra's al Ghul, the first Talia al Ghul, as well as the first Man-Bat, as well as just a beautiful cover with Batman 244, that amazing Batman and Ra's al Ghul in the desert. I think the next two, not necessarily on my list to buy next, but in terms of my Neal Adams list, is Batman 251. I had a 6.0 copy at one point, sold it for the very reason I just talked to you guys about. I bought it because it came up for a great deal for a 6.0. After having it for a couple months, it very much was not the copy I wanted in my collection to be my forever copy. I sold it, put that money towards something else, so I'm still looking for a high grade 251. That one is a lot more expensive than these guys. It might be pretty close to these two, actually. It might be pretty close to these guys. And that's for a non-key book other than an amazing cover and kind of a culture-turning moment for Joker in comics. The other one is Batman 227, which I do have a copy. I have a raw copy that I got at one of Mint Hunter Comics claim sales. Another good scenario where I got that book for a great deal, especially for where it's going for now. And I very much wanted it in my collection. Still have it, love it, happy to have it. And that's the other problem, is with how many claim sales I was attending, I would waste money at times on books I didn't necessarily need. And then when I saw these big books come up in claim sales that I actually wanted to add to my collection, for a great deal, they were giving amazing deals, I no longer had the funds for it because I just spent so much money on all these other things I didn't need as much because I always wanted to have something coming in. I didn't save as much for my next big purchase. So something to consider with that. But I've been considering, I don't know if I'm going to sell this copy and put it towards anything or keep a raw copy in my collection because the bulk of all of my collections are raw. It is just my bigger key and important books that I prefer to have graded. But Batman 227 is another one that it looks like this kind of keeps ticking further and further away. Last I checked, which was fairly recently, just this week, 8.0s to 8.5s, it looks like are going for between $2,000 to $2,200. So, me wanting to get something in the 9s, that's looking damn near impossible at this point, or at least way more than I'd feel comfortable spending at this. We'll see what happens, we'll see if I happen upon it, but just something for you guys to consider in your own purchasing journey. I'm extremely happy that I was able to add to my Neal Adams gold collection of that 9.0 white page or higher, and I waited for these copies, so hopefully you guys have made it through the video this long. Until next time.